Hey there, friends and enemies. JoPa here again, and today I wanted to talk about the First Descendant beta, which is wrapping up today, and I had a pretty good time with it overall. I played the majority of the content, tested out a bunch of different characters, but I see some glaring flaws that are going to be a bit of an issue heading into full launch, and there's some reasons why the long term of this game has me very nervous. I want it to succeed, I want it to be a banger, but I just don't know if it'll ever get to the place that it needs to go. So first off, talking about that, I think every single looter shooter in the history of the genre has had some hiccups at launch. That is pretty much not debatable, some worse than others, right? Obviously, Anthem really struggled, Fallout 76 really struggled, but even games like Destiny and Destiny 2, The Division and The Division 2 had their own issues at launch that had to be addressed over time. Especially a game like Warframe, which is what the First Descendant gets compared to the most, that game had some glaring weaknesses when it launched, but Digital Extremes was allowed to work on the game, add content, improve the game over the course of time to become what it is today, and it's really one of the top couple looter shooters in the genre overall. And I don't know if the First Descendant is going to get that chance because Nexon has a history of not allowing its games to improve and grow over the course of time if it's not generating insane amounts of revenue. And that's the problem that I see coming. I think there's some microtransaction issues that could pop up. I do think that the game is not going to get the full benefit of the doubt that it needs to have in order to continue to make progress over the course of time. That's my biggest concern as it is. At launch, I know the game is going to have its own problems, right? I think right now the issues that we're looking at are going to be the true end game, whether that's going to be something that is really keeping players invested over the course of time, the mission loop being repetitive, the ability to earn characters, how easy or hard that is overall. I think there are some question marks about that. If you are struggling to obtain a character a month or something like that, that might be a bit of an issue. So hopefully that becomes something that is manageable once a game does launch. It shouldn't be too easy. You shouldn't have everything within the first month of gameplay, but it should be an investment over the long term where you're continuing to make progress over time. You can hunt down the characters that you're looking for in a straightforward fashion, one by one, and there's enough to chase down overall that I think that will be a gameplay loop that a lot of people enjoy. However, I do worry because we don't have raids or dungeons or PvP, anything to keep people invested. Is the game going to keep its population over the weeks and months that it needs in order to get that end game content that they've talked about? Is the game going to be allowed to really push forward and bring maybe new innovative ideas to its end game over the course of time? Because right now, just the bosses are fun. I think they're interesting. I like the variety of bosses that we have. Hopefully there will be more at full launch, but those bosses are not going to keep everyone invested all the time. I think those are the type of thing that are going to be good endgame content, and especially on the harder levels, if you can farm them, if they become more challenging as time goes, I think they could be very, very interesting. But that's not enough in my personal opinion. You also need either a horde mode, raids, dungeons, something like that that's really going to be extremely challenging and allow players to test their skill, earn good loot, maybe have a leaderboard or something. There's a lot of different options they could go, in different directions they could go as well. However, I just think that I don't know if that's going to be available at launch. The plan, I believe right now, is for the game to launch next year. And there are some hiccups right now. I think they improved massively from the last beta to this one. There's more things to do. The cutscenes are better. The gameplay is better. The servers were more stable. A lot of issues like that were resolved. But there's still some glaring issues. PCs are having some issues with their frame rates and everything. Last-gen consoles are really struggling. I think this is a game that really would have benefited from not being on last-gen console, even though I know that's a massive player base to be losing out on. But being on Steam, being on PS5 and Series X, I think would have been good enough. So that's a decision that they're going to have to stick with, I think, going over the long term. But as far as the things that I really enjoyed, I feel like the characters are very interesting to play. I wish there was more synergy between them, whether it's role synergy from a tank to a healer, from a water character working with a ice character or a lightning character, and combining to buff up their attacks. Maybe they worked in conjunction with each other, so you'd really have an idea on what characters you want to kind of play with. If I have a friend group and someone's running Bunny, and then I want to run the water character or something like that, that would allow us to kind of juice up our attacks and combine them and really take the gameplay to the next level. The gameplay itself, I know a lot of people have talked about not only the gameplay, the enemies, all that stuff feeling a bit generic. I can see that, but overall, it's hard because I feel like the characters are interesting enough as far as their different gameplay mechanics. You have things to find, you have the weapons to find for the different characters. You want to make sure you have like close range weapons when you're running Bunny. You want to make sure you have long range weapons if you're running a sniper character, that kind of thing. And so I think all that leads to some interesting ways to earn loot and everything. Like the modules, I think are very fascinating and really have a massive effect on gameplay. You can really lean into certain builds with the modules that I think a lot of people didn't dive deep enough into, and that's one of the reasons why builds didn't feel very effective. Whereas if you get the specific modules for those characters, it really improves the gameplay loop of those certain characters as well. So I think there's a lot of that you can really lean into. There's legendary weapons that we probably haven't seen. There's still a lot of content that I think is going to be coming at launch that will be interesting to see how it all plays out. But overall, I am very hot and cold about this game. I think it's a very fun, similar to Warframe. It's a good gameplay loop. It's really enjoyable to earn those different characters and have something specific to chase, that you know what you need, where to find it, and all that kind of good stuff. So I think that's one place where the game is going to have a player base. And we've seen, compared to a game like Synced, the First Descendant had much more players on Steam specifically than Synced did. So I think the game has an audience, has people really looking to play it. So it will get the benefit of the doubt once it does launch, in my opinion. There will be people that will jump on, play it, see how it is, and there may be a hardcore dedicated player base. If it is given a chance to shine and improve over the course of time, I think this game could be an absolute banger. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, Nexon is not really known for allowing that for its games. So that's really where the major concern comes in for me. If we were looking at Digital Extremes with this game, or Bungie, or any other developer that's known to stick with its games a little bit longer, then I think the potential of this game would be absolutely massive. Unfortunately, I worry about it going the way of Anthem, which had the foundation to be great. It had a lot of the base things in there that made the game enjoyable. It had you wanting to play it, and I think there's a lot of reasons why Anthem could have succeeded if it was given the time that Fallout 76 was, that Warframe was, that Final Fantasy 14 was. These types of games, if it was allowed to grow and breathe and improve, then we would have seen an absolute banger in Anthem. And I worry the First Descendant is going to be more like Anthem than Fallout 76, which is in a great state right now, and it's a game that I think a lot of people should check out if you're looking to fill that looter shooter itch. But for me personally, I just hope the First Descendant is fun. I hope we get more content over the long haul, and we see that the developers are able to stick with it at least 6 months to a year in order to see what they can kind of improve on, iterate on, and how they can make the game better, because I do see I just see a lot of potential there. I know some people are saying it feels too generic. For me, I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about this game, a lot of gameplay things that I see from it that I very much enjoy. It fits what I'm looking to do in a looter shooter with the gameplay loop, and I can play it solo, I can play it with friends, a lot of different options. And so if that continues on, if we can see them improve a lot of these things that we've seen over the course of time, then I would be all on board, and I would definitely be somebody who plays the First Descendant really consistently. However, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know how that's going to go overall, but we're also waiting on the launch. I think hopefully we'll see sooner than later the announcement of the full launch of the game, when that's going to happen. And yeah, I can't wait to find out when that is. I'll definitely be jumping in day one, seeing how the game feels, seeing if it's one that's going to stick around. But we'll have to wait and see once that does happen. My name is JoPa. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Helps me out tremendously. Shows you want to see more the First Descendant content as we are leading up to launch. I could have guides on different characters and all that kind of good stuff. So let me know in the comments down below. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.